Good day, class. Hope you're all doing well today. Today I got some more video game lore for you, but it's not on Fallout. Instead, I thought we'd go over a recent little indie horror game, or I guess somewhat recent. I think it released a little over a year now, but nonetheless, it has still taken the world by storm. Today, I wanted to talk about Iron Lung, more specifically, a bit more about the lore of Iron Lung, just in case you haven't played the game yourself and experienced some of the lore that was added in an update that was added soon after its release. Or, if you're new to the sort of fandom of Iron Lung, or you saw the trailer on Markiplier's channel for the Iron Lung movie that he is creating and was wondering, what the heck is this all about? What is this? I've never heard of it. I want to know more about this. Then I figured that this would be a nice video to have out there in the world for all you newcomers to this. So, how did we get to the point where the game starts? Now, to do that, we actually have to go back in time a little bit. The year was around 1992. Humanity has spread to the stars, setting up space colonies and even having a colony on Mars eventually. Basically, humanity has started to claim the stars. We have started to spread beyond Earth. It's not really specifically stated if Earth is like fully united at this point, or if it's still split up into countries, or maybe they are still split up into countries, but there's just world peace. We don't quite fully know that aspect yet, at least not to my knowledge. Be sure to correct me if I'm wrong there. But the very first actual space colony was created in the year 1992. As you can see, this differs from our own timeline quite a bit. We don't quite know how humanity advanced so much quicker than in our timeline, at least not yet anyway. But nonetheless, that is when the first colony started. And because of this enormous event, this sort of great leap forward in humanity's ambitions, it essentially started a new calendar. Calendar EIC, similar to BC and AD, etc. So they essentially treated 1992 as the new year zero. Now, hundreds of years went by, 357 to be exact. Humanity continued to spread across the stars over these hundreds of years, setting up more space colonies, colonizing more planets, more moons, spreading out further and further. But after 357 years of continuous progress, growth, and ambition, without any warning or any signs at all that it was coming, all the stars and all the planets in the galaxy completely disappeared. This was dubbed the Quiet Rapture. The only people left in existence were those that simply happened to be in ships at the time or happened to be in space colonies at the time of the Quiet Rapture. Now, as I said, this took everyone by complete surprise. As I said, there was no warnings, there was no signs this was coming. So everyone was taken completely off guard. Nobody knew what happened. Nobody knew what was going to happen. Nobody knew where all the people went. Nobody knew where all the stars, all the planets went. All that was left was the space colonies and maybe a few barren moons here and there. But otherwise, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. And of course, with very, very limited resources, as the space colonies could only get what they had on board at the time of the Quiet Raptures happening. They obviously couldn't get more soil from new planets. They couldn't mine new minerals from new planets. They couldn't do anything. They had to become completely and totally self-sufficient. And throughout this process, there were two main governments that formed: the Consolidation of Iron and Eden. And Eden was the slightly larger of the two. Now, if you're wondering if perhaps these two main governments of the remaining humans banded together in a show of camaraderie and trying to, simply save humanity. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, as Eden sabotaged a station run by the Consolidation of Iron and made it completely uninhabitable, thus limiting humanity's already limited living space even more. This was, of course, all happening due to lack of resources and competition for whatever few remaining resources left. However, recently, there has been maybe a small, slight glimmer of hope, you could perhaps look at it as. On one of the barren moons that I mentioned that was left over from the Quiet Rapture, a moon dubbed AT5, a blood ocean appeared. And this specific moon is where the game takes place. Now, it is also stated that a few other blood oceans have popped up on some other barren moons, but we only know specifically about this one. We don't know if any of them differ at all, or if specific circumstances led to each one. We don't know yet. But these oceans are strange, as there seems to be at least a basic sense of life in them. This knowledge isn't known to the public quite yet, of course, as it could spark way too many questions or outrage for the too limited governments to handle. The people who explore these oceans are criminals who are put in horribly put together submarines that look like they could fall apart at a moment's notice. This is considered part of their rehabilitation process. The idea that you put these criminals in these poorly built submarines to explore for humanity and try to usher in something is called the Criminal Realization Program. This idea that this experience will rehabilitate them. However, this is most likely just done for a show or to save a bit of face, as the people in charge most likely don't care at all if these criminals actually come back or not. In fact, a note you can find in the game in the sub that you pilot reads as this: "This is not an expedition. This is an execution. When they put you in here, they don't want you to return. And even if you do, and even if they keep their promises, what freedom waits for you? A few dying ships and a sea of dead stars. If there is still hope, it lies beyond the veil. Hope in this void is as illusionary as the starlight. I will choose to breathe my last here at the bottom of an ocean, unseen, unheard, and uncontrolled. They will get their execution, and I will get my freedom." As we can see from this note left by presumably the last criminal that inhabited the sub before us, the player, did, there's a general sense of hopelessness, not only in the pilots of these subs, but most likely even to humanity as a whole. There's no planets, there's no sun, there's no stars. Imagine entire generations of people who have most likely never felt a genuine sun on their face, never felt the soil between their toes, never heard actual birds chirping, most likely. Maybe a few lucky colonies have set up greenhouses in their ships. Maybe a few lucky colonies who are maybe a bit more well off before the rapture have some sort of animal sanctuaries. Maybe. But that's just the best case scenario, and experiencing them in these ships in a giant black void of lifeless nothing. Imagine what that would do to a species like humanity. Imagine what that would do to any sentient species. We can see the true hopelessness felt by the people in this world, and also the corruption at play, as it is very obvious, judging by that note. They don't give a dang if you come back. I mean, if you come back and you find something interesting to tell them or something useful, great, they got something out of you. But if not, you were a criminal to them anyway. And you got to think, in this world, there is most likely a bit of extremism with what is maybe considered a criminal. Sure, maybe some of them are, heartless murderers. Maybe, possibly. Maybe one of them just stole a crop. Maybe one of them just disobeyed. After all, we don't really know between who the two main governments, if there is necessarily a quote unquote good guy between the two of them. Maybe they're both corrupt. Maybe they're both not and are just simply fighting over resources. Maybe one of them can be considered good, maybe one can be considered bad. There's a lot of mystery to this world, and I really do enjoy that. But anyway, sorry, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. Back to the Blood Oceans. In the ocean, there is these humming monoliths, weird pipes that seem to be constructed out of these massive veins, and even seemingly destroyed buildings. And we don't know where these buildings are coming from, as supposedly these moons were barren, as in they weren't inhabited by humans before the Great Rapture. So were these like secret upstart colonies that people have just forgotten? Or is there something else at play? In fact, not only this, but you can also find other wreckages down there. Most notably, you can find the wreckage of the SM-8, which was a submarine specifically made for deep water research and was manned by actual scientists. Now, this gets rid of the theory that maybe they're only sending these criminals in such shoddy submarines due to lack of resources and they have to have them like that. But as we can see from this, they have actual scientists at their disposal. They have actual subs. Granted, maybe they can't seem to waste them, but they know more than what they're letting on about us to these blood oceans. They know more. They know it's dangerous. Otherwise, they would keep sending scientists. They would keep sending these submarines meant for deep water research. Now, I am going to get into a bit of a spoiler for the game. At the end of the game, the sub that you pilot gets destroyed, and the pilot most likely gets eaten and killed at the end. And yes, you heard me right. Not crashed, not sinks. The sub doesn't just fall apart, even though by the end of the game it borderline starts to. But he is in fact eaten by a giant creature that lurks within the depths of the blood ocean. Now, as far as we know, as I said, this pilot is dead. Maybe the future movie or a future installment to the game will answer a question if he truly survived or not somehow. But for now, we don't know. Now, in case you didn't know, you may have heard me reference it earlier in the video, but Markiplier, famous YouTuber, has actually released a trailer on his channel for an Iron Lung movie that he is creating in collaboration with the game's creator, of course. Now, I highly encourage you to watch the trailer. I'll have it linked somewhere, as it has me very excited for the future of this world and what exactly we're going to see in the movie. And, of course, support the game any way possible. It is available on Steam. I'm not sure if it's available on the Epic Games Store or not, or any consoles, but try and look for it wherever you get your video games. That truly is a lovely little indie game, and I, for one, highly enjoy it. But that's all I have for you for now. Now, if there's another update to the game that reveals more, or a sequel to the game, or whenever the movie comes out, you can definitely expect a full analysis from yours truly. But until next time.